Hello, chuirde Jimmer a teisih tá súla go gohfuil si bh lig go maiid. Fáilte roimh, we're géad fáilte an seo a chuirde tá sé jazz si bh eáil. It's really nice to see you all back. I hope you all had a great weekend. I hope he's got a little bit of studying done, and if you didn't, don't worry about it. This week is a new week as well. It was really, really good to see some of you as well on Sunday at the masterclass on the essay where we kind of looked at before you start jumping into essays and before you start trying to learn essays off by heart and before you start kind of killing yourselves with the amount of essay work that you have to do, I think it's actually really important to just slow down for a couple of seconds and look and see what essays are asking you to do in terms of layout and in terms of filters and sneaky tricks and stuff that they tend to put into essays to try and not keep the H1 rate down, but I mean, they have to provide a bit of a challenge, and there has to be things kind of in essays that H1 and H2 students would pick up on, and that's why I gave you that kind of method there on Sunday as well that you can apply to pull apart and see if there's any sneaky angles in it as well. I've kind of done a couple of TikToks on it as well that you can have a look at, but it's a really important thing. We can talk a little bit more about as well about the essay on Thursday. Now, if you are new to tonight's class, you're very, very welcome. Michal here. I'll be looking after you for the next hour. If you're usual, if you're a regular, you know what to do. But your notes are all in the chat function there that you need. So if you just kind of go up to the Dropbox in the blue link, Karina, Jimmer Tetu, how are you getting on? Great to see you again. If you just go to the links there, folks, and just click the link and download it, and that way you can annotate the notes as we go along. While you're doing that, I'm just going to give a quick explanation to what we do every week, live and interactive. Tuesdays, 5:15, paper 2, we're going for literature, and this is our third week on tEarrach here, and every night when it comes to tEarrach here, we're taking an exam question. So we've taken 24 and 22 tonight. I'm going to be looking at 2019. I'm going to show you what we wanted. I'm going to show you how to fit the material in to fit the question, and then we're going to take a little bit of revision for tEarrach here. So everything you need is all there in that Dropbox link. If you just click that, you download the notes, and you'll have them for tonight's class. If you were here last week or you heard a week beforehand, you have it in the digital books there. It's on page roughly, I think it's page 171 if you've got the printed books, and about 165 if you're using the digital copies as well. Now, this is only for 6th years tonight, so unfortunately, if you're in 5th year, you should not be here because you're on a totally different literature course. Now, tomorrow, 5:15 Q&A session, hands down my favourite question and answer session, is my favourite class of the week. I love it. If you've been to it last week, you'll see it's quite wild. Questions from the smallest to the most major things in Irish. Everything from what's a tEarrach, how's masculine and feminine, how do I improve my Irish, what should I study? The questions are brilliant. Even if you just turn up, have a look for 10 or 15 minutes and see what the rest of the country is asking. Like last week, we talked an awful lot about the worrying and the anxiety around learning Irish. And we kind of took an awful lot of the mystery out of learning Irish as well, and kind of gave you a little bit of a plan of what to do. So last week was quite good. Looking forward to it tomorrow as well. Straight after that Q&A session, then we go for 6:45. We're going to go for the listening, and we're going to go for the oral class as well, folks. So that class on a Wednesday is worth 50% to you. So I think it's kind of quite important to turn up to that. We're all going to do a little bit of listening together. I'm going to correct a little bit with you. We're going to live correct, and then I'm going to give you the words and phrases that I think you should know from that listening section. You don't need anything. You can just turn up and I'll have everything on the screen for you. So all you need is a pen, and that's it. And I'll have your notes for the orals as well, all inside a nice little package as well. But again, you can use the notes and you can use the books if you want. It's up to you. So that's a 6:45 then tomorrow. And then on Thursdays at 5:15, we go for essay writing and a little bit of language skills. So a little bit of language skills is basically how to Irish. So tomorrow we're going to talk about, or Thursday we're going to talk about the masculine nouns, how to recognize a masculine noun, how to use the masculine noun in Irish. Very, very simple. It'll take me about 15 minutes, but I think it's going to clear up an awful lot of hassle for you on Thursday as well. And then straight after that, we're going to get into the essay again, and we'll do a little bit of essay skills with you. And then on Thursday, 6:45, then that is you done 6th years, because Thursday 6:45 is 5th years only, because they're on a different path when it comes to the literature. So hopefully you've got the notes there. They're all there, everything that you need. Just download them in the chat function. I just want to show you very, very quickly with the platform as well, to make sure that you're using the material and you're using it to the best, right? So if you go to Irish and you click that, and then we go down to our grinds. So here we are. This is our grinds for Tuesdays. You've got your orals and orals are there that we do on the Wednesday. You also then have your Thursday class for the writing skills, and you have your essay there as well, and 5th years are all there. So they're all your classes for the week. But I want to show you this very quickly. Can you start playing those interactive games for me? So last week we looked at tEarrach here for the second week. So we've on tEarrach here 1, and then we've on tEarrach here 2. Tonight's on tEarrach here 3. But do me a favour, I'm giving you loads of vocab that's different, it's unique, it kind of sets you apart, and I'm giving you loads of phrases and loads of structures and things like that, folks. Will you just make sure that you play the games in order to reinforce the material? Because I know, talking to a couple of you yesterday in the Talbot Hotel at the masterclass, that you're saying like the material is great, but how do you learn the material, Michal? Well, that's why I've made you games. So you can do the game 1, 2, 3, do them in order though. Start at game 1 and then go on. So V3 is all about verse 3. So if you're revising on tEarrach here, verse 3, make sure you start at game 1 and then go on to game 2 and then go on to game 3. And then if you're doing verse number 4 revision, make sure you do game 4, 5 and then 6. Do them in the order. But all that material there, all your games, well, it's to complement the lesson. So every time I do a lesson with you, straight after that then I do the games that are relevant to the grinds. But will you please start playing those games, because it'll just make the listening and it'll make the poetry an awful lot easier for you as well. Right, I tell you what, let's get started in tonight's class. So you have your notes there in the chat function. Now again, any questions, any problems, any issues, any worries, will you please let me know in the comment section in the chat, and we'll have an outlook at this on tEarrach here. Now, you're going to think I'm messing you, but I'm not. We did 2024 and then we did 2022, and last week I said to you that they're kind of repeating the same stuff, right? I'm going to cast back. 2024, they asked you about life on the island in his youth. Last week when we did the question from 2022, they asked you about life of the island in his youth. I am not joking. Have a look at this, 2019. Like, I love the serious lack of imagination when it comes to questions. But there it is, Síl an Ullán, life of the island. And again, Ina Oige, in his youth. That's the 3rd time in a row that they have asked that. Which is why I love the higher level course. Because it's quite doable, very predictable, I think, in a way. Like, there's only so much that they can ask you about on tEarrach here, and you should know that because this is the 3rd time they've asked island life in his youth. But they're giving us buzzwords. So we all know that you've learnt material off by heart for the Leaving Cert. That's grand, no judgment here, this is a safe space. It's the name of the game, you have to learn off a little bit of material, I get that. So what happens then when you've learnt off your material? You've learnt it well. The Irish is good, the Irish is great. And you go into the exam and then all of a sudden you come out with like 70% or a H3. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's a deadly grade to get. But when you were telling me of all the time and effort and energy that you're actually putting into a class and into an answer, and then all of a sudden you're just getting 70% and you're feeling frustrated. Fair, totally fair. But the thing is, you're not adapting what you have learned to fit the question. That's the key. So you've learnt off your material, you've learnt off your sample answers, you've learnt off your kind of your phrases and your structures really well. But the thing is, you're still not pulling any more than 70%. You're thinking, I should be getting an awful lot more than that. You need to look at the question. You need to use their jargon. So they've got jargon, they've got buzzwords, they've got nice fancy structures. They're actually telling you something is true. Like, there is contrast in the poem, there is love in the poem, there is sadness in the poem. They want you to get to college. So they're telling you at higher level something is true. They're giving you the buzzwords, they're giving you the jargon. It's up to you on the day to fit those buzzwords into what you have learned off by heart. So let's have a look at the buzzwords for the 2019 question here, right? So, Civní an Uile. Civní an Uile are the poet's memories, or the memories of the poet. Either of those is fine. But you kind of know that because you have a phrase like Is Cibhinn Liom, which means I remember. Is Cibhinn Liom Inné? I remember yesterday. Is Cibhinn Liom Saoirse? I remember Saoirse. So Civní an Uile means the memories of the poet. On what though? Nósanna. And I gave you this last week. On traditions. Nósanna is the word for like habits, traditions, anything like that. So the memories of the poet on traditions. And this word here, abhainle means which concerned. Abhainle, which concerned, past tense. Síl an Ullán, life of the island, Ina Oige, in his youth. And we're back to the same stuff. So let's have a quick look before we get into this. How many marks are going for it? What timing should I spend on it? And how much do I have to write? Now, how many marks are going for this? 15 marks for you. It's a little bit different for us because we've got the Irish in it, but what they're telling you here is where to put your efforts. So it's going to be worth 15 marks. And because it's only worth 15 marks, I would only spend about 17 minutes on this. And how much would I write? I would go for an A4 page and a half. You probably might go up a little more, a little bit over the A4 page and a half. That's grand. But I definitely would not do any more than 2 A4 pages because it's only worth 15 marks. So what we want to do now is we're going to use their buzzwords. We're going to put it in. Your introduction, and we spoke about this last week, and you're all mad for an intro. You're all like, oh, Michal, I got 7 or 8 lines on an introduction. That's great, but you're kind of wasting time if I was to be honest. I just want a short, snappy introduction. So you can use your ein team, go hilje is go homlan. Now, ein team go hilje is go homlan is perfect. Ein team is I agree. So I agree. Go hilje is go homlan means totally and utterly. They're actually the same words. Go hilje and go homlan are identical. We can use these in Irish. So I agree. Go hilje is go homlan totally and utterly. And then I can put in then leis an tEarrach. So leis an tEarrach with the statement and the same structure as English. Oh, sorry there. So leis an tEarrach with this statement. And you can see the word ra in there. Ra means to say, ag ra, saying, and you can see it in there in tEarrach. Now you can give me something as short and snappy as that, or you can add in a little bit more. You could develop it out a little bit, and you could say, Cuvni an ile nosna. We can go for fecumwich. Cuvni an ile nosna. Now I'm not going to write out the full question, but you get the gist. Awenle. All the way through. So all you're just doing is putting in fecumwich we see, and then you've got the rest of the statement. Cuvni an ile, the memories of the poet, nosna on conditions, on habits, on traditions, avwen le sílan ilan in Augustan, and that's it. So that's it. Short, snappy introduction done, because all your points are going to come on for what you've written next. Now here's the trick. You have material learnt off, but we have to add in things. We have to add in the buzzwords into your material. We have to take in and use the jargon in your material. So a couple of phrases that we can use, and we call these signpostings. That's what I call them. I call them signposting because in a way you're highlighting to your examiner that you've read the question, you understand the question, and you're trying to answer the question, that this isn't just a generic copy and paste that you've learned off. So I can go for something like this. Tá an filje ag smuoinmh air. So ag smuoinmh air, thinking of, thinking about. So tá an filje, Lydia, if I can see that right, actually, yeah, it's Lydia. How are you getting on, Lydia? Well, kunna sa tá too. Nosana is the word for conditions, habits, or traditions. So habits or traditions. So Cuvni an ile, it's the memories of the poet. Nosna on habits, on traditions. Avwen le sílan ilan, which concerned life on the island. So tá an filje, the poet is, and we have this word here, ag smuoinmh air. Ag smuoinmh air means thinking of or thinking about. Now I'm going to add in a little bit more. We can still go for tá an filje. The poet is. And I'm going to go for ag dul sheer air. This is quite nice. So tá an filje, the poet is. Ag dul sheer. You know ag dul. Ag dul means going. So ag dul, going. Sheer in Irish means back. So going back, and we know that air in Irish means on. Same structure as English. So ag dul sheer air going back on. So we're going to say he's going back on his youth, he's going back on the memories. We're going to come to all these in a couple of seconds, but let's look at different ways of saying that the poet is thinking back on, because that's the question. It's the memories of the poet. And again, we can go for something like ta an filia. The poet is ag machnamh sheer air. So ta an filia, again, the poet is ag machnamh. I like this. Ag machnamh is like reflecting. So ta sé ag machnamh, reflecting. I'm going to say sheer again, reflecting back. And then I'm going to say air. He's reflecting back on. Now, I'm going to add in a couple of things because it's the poet's memories on the conditions of the island, on the habits of the island, or on the traditions of the island. So I'm going to add in a couple of things that we can add in here. Right? So I'm going to use any variation, ag smuoinmh, ag dul sheer air, ag machnamh. I can use those interchangeably all the way through my answer to let the examiner know I'm answering the question. So I'm going to say ta sé ag smuoinmh air. He's thinking back on air hail on Ilion, on the life of the island. I can say ta an filia ag dul sheer air hail on Ilion. I can say ta an filia ag machnamh sheer air hail on Ilion. All of those ones in blue are all going to fit these, and the grammar's done for you as well. Ta an filia ag smuoinmh air leighanta a oige. Now, leighanta a oige are the days of his youth. And again, you can pick any variation in blue, and you can mix and match. Ta an filia ag dul sheer air leighanta a oige. He's going back on the years of his youth. There's loads of these that we can use. Ta an filia ag smuoinmh sheer air air na sean leighanta. So air na sean leighanta. Thinking back on sean leighanta, the old days. Ta an filia ag dul sheer air. Oh, I like this one. Oh, let's go. Folks, 1 second. I'm just going to take that out. Now, ta an filia ag machnamh sheer air. The poet is reflecting back on Bóirín na smuointe. You use this word in English quite often. Bóirín is a small lane or small road, and in English you say to go down memory lane. He went down memory lane, or I'm just taking a trip down memory lane. That's exactly what that is there. So Bóirín or Bóirín na smuointe. Bóirín na smuointe is memory lane. So tá sé ag machnamh sheer air. The poet's thinking back. He's reflecting back on memory lane. So it's a nice one to say that he's going back again to his youth. And again, we can just pop in something. Tá sé ag machnamh sheer air na nósanna. He's thinking back on the nósanna, the habits, the traditions. And again, if you wanted, you could put in a oige, in his youth. Now, a couple more, right? I can add on these. I can say, and because you told me as well, is cuimhin leis an bhile an fear atá a bharsa hín. Now, is cuimhin leis an bhile. The poet remembers. So is cuimhin leis an bhile. The poet remembers an fear the man. I'll actually put that into green just to save you the confusion. So an fear the man. And then that word atá just means who is. Atá, who is a bharsa hín in verse 1. And again, we can go for is cuimhin leis an bhile. The poet remembers the man. An fear atá, who is a bharsa adó in verse 2. So an fear atá, who is, and then in verse 2. Because remember, there's 4 verses. And each of these 4 verses have a specific person. Verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, and verse 4. Verse 1 is about a man. Verse 2 is about a man. Can you remember verse 3? So I can say, is Kevin leis an Vilja. The poet remembers. Na, mana, the women. The women are in verse 3. Na mana, the women, who are, ata, verse 3. So na mana, the women, ata, who are, and then in verse 3 in verse 3. And we've got one more verse as well. I can say something like, now actually, if you were with me on Sunday, I gave you a little phrase that we can use in the essays. I'm actually going to use it here just to keep it a little bit fresh in your mind, right? And Charlotte has the exact same. Charlotte, 100%, both of us. Charlotte says, Michal, how else can I say is Cuivan leis? He remembers. Fair point, to avoid repeating exactly, right? And what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to change it a little bit. I'm going to say is my is Cuivan leis an Vilja. So is my is Cuivan leis. You're still using, Charlotte, you're still using the is Cuivan leis an Vilja that you have up here, but you're sticking on the word is my or is ma, which means now, Charlotte, means he remembers well. And it's a different structure in Irish. Obviously, we put the well at the very first, like well he remembers. And that's impressive. So even that is enough, Charlotte, to actually put in is my is Cuivan leis an Vilja. It's well the poet remembers. And can you remember verse 4? Verse 4 is about na hiascuri, the fishermen, who are ata, and then a verse a ceathair an sin. Is my is Cuivan leis na hiascuri, the fishermen, ata, who are, and then a verse a ceathair in verse 4. But here's what we're going to do. We mix all these up. The poet is thinking back on, the poet is going back on, the poet is reflecting back on, the poet remembers well, because that's what the first thing the question has asked you. The poet says, Civni an Ilya, the memories of the poet. And then the second thing is then, he remembers the habits of island life in his youth. And you're just going to bring me back to verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, and verse 4. The stuff that you already have learned off. But that signposting is really, really important, because that tells me as an examiner, hold up now. We have a person who's read the question and is trying their very best to answer a question, when most students around the country just kind of copy and paste the material that they've learned off by heart and hope to the divine God that it gets the marks. But if you just stop for a couple of minutes on the day of the exam and stop that rush to just start putting out everything you know and copy and paste it, look at the question. The examiner's telling you something is true. They're not trying to catch you out. They're telling you something's true. They're giving you the buzzwords. They just want you to stop for a couple of seconds, think about it, and then put it in. Now here's the best news. Do you know the way Paul is doing amazing work with you? And Paul's probably giving you like topic sentences, material to back up that topic sentence, and then you're probably getting examples, and then there's a structural thing with English, and then you have to give I think it's a concluding sentence, and then give a quote to back yourself up. We don't need that. We don't need that in Irish at all. I just want you to take what you've known, what the question is asking, and merge the two of them together, just so I know you're answering the question to the best of your ability. How do you know when Phila gets a H or not? Clodagh, super question, right? Very, very quickly, Clodagh. When you want to say a poet, in Irish, Clodagh, we don't have an indefinite article. So if you're doing French, you know it's un or une. If you're doing Spanish, I think it's una and uno. And if you're doing German, it's ein, einen, einer, einem, or yeah. So we don't have one of these. So if I want to say a poet, Clodagh, I just say Filia. That's it. We don't have a word for a in Irish, so we'll never have to worry about whether a washing machine is masculine or feminine in Irish. If I want to say a washing machine, it's just machine níochan. Now, the next thing then, Clodagh, is when I want to say the word de in Irish, I need to know whether my word is masculine or feminine. So if I want to say de poet, well, I'm going to use singular de in Irish, which is the word an. So again, in French, you might have le and la. In Spanish, I think you have el and la. And in German, you have der, die, das, den, or dame. Our version in Irish, it's just an. And because it's a masculine word, And Clodagh, we're talking about this on Thursday, by the way. Because it's a masculine word, I don't have to add in anything. So Clodagh's question is like, Micheál, well then when does Filia get a H? So I'm going to bring you over into group number 3. If I want to say the poet's name, right? Now, when have you ever seen an apostrophe S in Irish? We haven't. So how do we do that? How do we get around it? We're going to use our Tishel Ginadach, Clodagh. So if I want to say the poet's name or the name of the poet, I'm going to use this spelling system called the Tishel Ginadach. And the Tishel Ginadach is actually super logical and super structured. And we'll get around to it. There's already videos if you want to have a look at it. But Clodagh, it'll answer your question if you want to have a look at those videos on the workshop Wednesday. It'll explain everything to you. But when I want to say the poet's name or the name of the poet, then I'm going to add in Anyam on Ilya. Then I'm going to add in my H. And I've one more as well, right? So far, we've no indefinite article, a poet, Filia. I don't have any grammar rules. I'm going to say the poet. The poet is, the poet isn't, the poet does this, the poet does that, on Filia. But when I want to say the name of the poet or the poet's name, then I'm going to pop a H, Clodagh, into second position. And I have one more. If I want to say lesh on or air on or egg on, Clodagh, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the uru on this one. So if I want to say with the poet, on the poet, from the poet, beside the poet, or I'm going to go for, let's go for lesh on. Here's my word Filia. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop an uru onto those. So lesh on Filia, with the poet. Clodagh, your H's and your urus are really, really patterned in Irish. They might seem a little bit wild at the moment, that there's H's and there's urus, but they're actually, it's very, very patterned and it's very, 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 very structured. So have a look at that, right? But I want to go on to a little bit more, right? So that's our question 1. That's how much to write. That's the time we need to spend on it. And there are key buzzwords. Play the game. Play the game. Let's go on to question number 2 for a second. Now, let's go on to question number 2. Cén mothachán is mó. Now, sorry, Claude, if you need me to go back to that a little bit later, that's fine. Sorry, I pushed you all on, right? If you need me to go back to it, Claude, just let me know, right? Now, cén mothachán is mó a wasclín an dánseo on it féin. I love these questions. This is question 2. How many marks are going to go for this? Usually about 6 marks go for question 2. And usually I would spend about maybe 8 minutes. Don't panic. It's only worth 6 marks. Your speech, your conversation in the orals is 120 marks. Do you know, like, you have to put things into kind of perspective as well. This question 2, I know you want to write down loads, but it's only going to be worth 6 marks to you. No matter how perfect it is, I can only give you 6. I can actually only give you 5 because we have a different marking scheme with the Irish get taken into it. So in the papers it says 6 marks, right? But technically it's only 5. So no matter how perfect it is and how much you write and how much Micheál phrases you use, and I've only got 6 marks to give you. So I'm only going to write about 10 lines max. Jesus, that's all they're getting. I'm definitely not going to do any more. Do you know what? I'm probably in theory I'd only give them maybe 8 lines because they're only giving me 6 marks for it. And if they are not giving me marks, then I'm not going to kind of give them as much as I want. The time for throwing the kitchen sink at things was for the 15 mark question. That's question 1. This one is just jotting it down. So let's have a look at this. Why? I think this deserves a little love heart here, right? Why I love these questions. You cannot be wrong. So, cén mothachán. What's the emotion? Cén mothachán. Cén mothachán is mó. What is the biggest emotion? The greatest emotion? A wasclín an dánseo on it féin. Which? The letter A. A wasclín an dánseo on it féin, which the poem awakens in you. How waffly is that? Poetry's waffle, so let's waffle. So they're asking you for what emotion, what's the biggest emotion awoken in you? But they're saying you can't be wrong. So if you want to say, Brón, sadness is awoken in me, I can't be like, nah, No, it's not woken in you. Sorry, you picked the wrong one. I'm asking your opinion, so you can't be wrong. So if you want to say ahas, happiness, I can't disagree with you. If you want to say Mihal, nostalgia, I can't disagree because I'm asking you a personal question. So this should be a handy 6 marks for everybody around the country. So what is the biggest emotion? Now here is the thing, the catch. And I want you to be kind of I want you to be a little bit kind of clever with this, right? I'm asking you for the biggest emotion. So please, 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 please don't list off 3 or 4 emotions because I've asked you for the biggest one. And there can only be one. So don't be telling me that I feel this, and this, and I have a little hint of this and a little bit of this. As I want one because they're asking me what is the biggest one. So let's have a look at this one, right? Musclean. Now, this is all about a formula. We're going to stick to this formula. Every time we see this question, we're going to stick to this type of formula. Musclean on Dawn Shaw something on him. All right? That's the first thing that I'm going to put down. They're giving you the verb musclean, which means to awaken. Poetry is waffle. We're going to waffle. Like, half of poetry is just waffling out with fancy words. Please don't tell Paul. So musclean on Dawn Shaw something on him. I get to pick whatever that is. So I'm going to go for gra ache, which I'm going to give you the sample answers for now in a few minutes. Gra ache is literally a love for place. So you've got the word aich for place in Irish, which you know. So gra ache is a love for place. Like, you know how I feel about Wexford. I'm very passionate about Wexford. It's 90% of my personality. So I can say musclean Loch Armagh gra ache on him. Loch Armagh, Wexford kind of awakens a love for place in me. But gra ache is good. I can also go for this one here, cua. Now I love this. Cua is the word for nostalgia or melancholy. The very best of luck trying to spell those in English. It's just cua in Irish. So much easier. Cua. Give it a W sound in the middle of it. I could say this poem awakens brone, a sadness in me, or maybe brode, pride. It's up to you. There's loads. You can't be wrong. If you want to go for ahas, you can. But we need that sentence because I've asked you what is the biggest emotion. You're telling me this is the emotion. So now I can correct it. And it says here, Islor pointje awan. 1 point is enough. So I'm going to add in one more sentence. I'm going to add in the word thekim. I see whatever the emotion is. And then a versa. And I'm going to pick whatever verse I want. Because they've asked for one supporting piece of evidence. 1 point of evidence. Right? So, what is the main emotion awoken in you? I'm going to say musclean on Dawn Shaw gra ache on him. It awakens a love or nostalgia or sadness or pride. The next sentence you're going to put down for the examiner is fecum. I see, and again, I'm going to go for cua. I see nostalgia in verse, and you get to pick verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, or verse 4. I'm going to pick verse 1. It's the man that's wiping the dirt off the side of a spade. It's the man that wipes the dirt off the side of a spade, and there's that kind of quietness in the heat of the day. And then I'm going to use my notes. But I am not going to go any more than 10 lines because it's only worth a 6 mark question for you. It's all about how you lay down the material. Now I know the books are giving you like wild, in the books you have to learn off main emotions, atmospheres, you have to learn off kind of main themes, and they're giving you an awful lot of material to learn off by heart. They're just asking you for 1 point of information. And here's the thing. You have to give me concrete evidence. I have to be able to see that emotion. So if you tell me the biggest emotion is nostalgia, I see nostalgia in verse 1 when the man wipes the dirt off the side of a spade. He takes a break in the heat of the day and it's got a sweet sound and it's lots of silence on the island. I know I can go back and say, yeah, that's verse 1. I read that in verse 1. You're right, 100%. You are giving me concrete evidence that the examiner can see. Now, come back to 1 second. An awful lot of things in the books I can't give you points for because they're using very, very wishy-washy terms. We see nostalgia in the poem. Nostalgia is very prominent in the poem. Nostalgia is to the fore of this poem, and the poet is very nostalgic about his native place, and he's very nostalgic about the time of the year, and he's very nostalgic about the habits and about the people who live there. But you haven't actually brought me back to the poem. You haven't actually brought me back to the poem to show me the nostalgia in verse 1 or verse 2 or verse 3 or verse 4. And that is the difference between those top grades and not. What I want in your notes is concrete evidence. I want to be able to see that point in verse 1, or if you want to take verse 2 or verse 3 or verse 4 or verse 5, that's perfect, or verse 4. But there has to be concrete evidence. So that 6 mark questions, 10 lines, that's enough. That's all we have to do. And if you look then for question number 3, very simple as well. Question number 3, they're asking you about the life and the work of the poet. So again, how much would I write for this? Well, I would go for marks. This is going to be worth 9 marks to you, which is lovely. It's about nearly, I think it's what, 30% of your poetry question straight off the bat there for 9 marks. And it's a direct copy and paste. And how much time would I spend on it, folks? Because it's a direct copy and paste, I wouldn't spend, like, you should be able to get this down in a couple of minutes, like 5 minutes. The poet's name is, he was born here, he lived here, he worked as a state serviceman in the Department of Education. He moved to Dublin in 1937. He wrote Famine Beantana and blah, blah, blah. And that's it. Learn your poets, your life and work of your poet. You should be able to get that done in, hopefully, I'd say about maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But that's 30% of your overall poetry mark. Higher level is filled. It's literally engineered to give you the best marks possible, but I feel like an awful lot of the books are kind of slowing us down a little bit with the amount of material that's in it. Emily, how are you getting on, Emily? Changed your mind about learning Irish? That's great. I'm delighted to hear that. That's fantastic. You weren't going to bother with it for Leaving Cert. Definitely do 100% stay with it, because the Leaving Cert is, you've got literally examiners rooting for you. They're giving you kind of buzzwords. They're giving you what you need. No one is going to be wishing you more. Irish is such a personal thing. It's such a personal language, like to all of us that correct it. Like, and we just want you to do well, and we want you to kind of do your very best. So there is that kind of like a personal element to it. So there's nobody rooting for you more on that day, bar your nanny who's lit candles and stuff like that. But besides your nanny, there's no one really rooting for you more on the day of the exam than an examiner, because we want you to do well in Irish. We want you to like Irish. So yeah, it's stay with higher level, especially higher level, because maths, you kind of got like that 65 or that you got that 25 extra points in maths, didn't you? Like to just turn up and do a little bit of maths on the day. Great, don't tell Rob. But in Irish, in a way, if you look at it, that instead of giving you 25 points, which will inflate courses, they took kind of the higher level course and they've kind of brought it more in line with the ordinary level course. If you look at it, these are all ordinary level poems, ordinary level stories. The listening is from ordinary level as well. Same speakers, same material, same phrases, same structures, just the questions are different, Emily, as well. And again, like the oral is a common exam. There's no higher level and ordinary level. So that's kind of our 25 points. We reduced what's on the actual course itself, believe it or not. But definitely, I think stay with higher level Irish if it's possible. It's definitely worth it. Like, Jack, how would you navigate a question like this if you didn't understand key verbs and keywords such as muscling? Jack, super question, 100%. But Jack, they've been repeating the same questions. This question was the exact same as in 2024 and 2022 and in 2019. Jack, if you write down all the questions for an tEarrach here and write down all the questions for Spalpeen Fánach and Gavin and Ahigna or and Colscar, you'll see, Jack, that they're asking you the same stuff over and over again because they want you to do well. So Jack, what I would do is I would write down all the questions, because they keep using these questions for different poems as well. So they might ask you maybe in Spalpeen Fánach, how does this poem make you feel? And you can still use that layout and formula. So Jack, the more you engage with the exam papers, the more you see that they are repeating the same questions over and over and over again. They have nowhere to go with the questions. Very quickly, Siobhan, what is the direct translation for muscling? Muscling is to awaken, Siobhan. So you've probably got dúshig is to wake up, and airig is to kind of get up as well. Muscling is kind of another word to awaken. So what I would say, instead of saying gúshig me for I woke up, gúshig me ag seach the clog, gúshig me ag níochlog, Siobhan, I'd say wuscal me, I woke up. So what is the emotion awoken in you? That's all it is. Clodagh, for the poetry question, could you answer the Sale and Sear, the life and work of the poet in the first part, and then do the 15 and 10 marker question after it? You could indeed. You don't have to do these in order, by the way. I'll explain this a little bit more. I'm going to explain a strategy with you. Folks, I'm going to run another masterclass in the Talbot again on December, and it's going to be on the orals. And then I'm going to run another masterclass in January, Clodagh, based on paper 2 timing and what questions to do. Because I don't think you should do the questions in the order. I'm more in line with Clodagh. I would chase different parts of the course. So I'll show you this in January as well. But yeah, you don't have to do the questions in order. You can do question 3, question 1, question 2. It's up to you. Once all 3 are down, we're good to go. Right. Keep your questions coming in. Any issues, worries, any anxieties, anything you want to ask an examiner, throw it in there. That's what I'm here for. Right, let's have a quick look at this. So last week I didn't get onto this Dahana and Fumina. I'm going to show you this very, very quickly, right? So Dahana and Fumina, I want us to put an NB beside this year. Dahana are colours, and there are colours in this poem. And Fumina is the word for sounds. So Fum, a sound, Fumina, sounds. So there are colours and there are sounds in this poem. Let's have a look at this part here, right? And again, I'd like to see something like this come up with an tEarrach here because they haven't really asked us this in a while. Tá neart íomhána sa dán atá dírithe air. Let's go for the word here, right? Neart íomhána. Neart íomhána means plenty of images or lots of images. And I know for a fact you know the word alán in Irish. Now, alán is brilliant, but we can also just use the word neart. So tá, there are, neart íomhána, there are plenty of images. Sadan Shaw in this poem, and here's my word atá, which are. Now this is definitely, the trouble was in English. Who is, which is, which are, which is. You've got loads to choose from in English. It's just atá. All of those are just going to be one word for us in Irish. Atá. The man who is, atá. The men who are, atá. The trouble with translating that you're finding in English, it's actually with English, not Irish. So atá dírithe air, which are, dírithe is the word for focused on. Dírithe air, chéadfá na héisteachta, the sense of sound. So dírithe air, focused on, chéadfá na héisteachta, the sense of sound. I can stop there. I can repeat that phrase and say tá, there are neart íomhána, lots of images in this poem atá, which are dírithe air, focused on, céadfá narc, the sense of sight. That's a very fancy phrase to have. I like that. Trí úsáid a bhaint. Now again, this is very generic. You can use this for all poems. Highlight this. Trí úsáid a bhaint means through using or by using. Fumina, sounds. Dahana, colours. Cruhíonn an fille, the poet creates. And again, remember, Irish, we are a verb first language and we put the person into second position. So cruhíonn an fille, the poet creates. Now every poet has to create something, so lock that phrase in. The poet creates atmosphere, the poet creates emotion, the poet creates whatever. So cruhíonn an fille, the poet creates atmosphere, síocháinte, a peaceful atmosphere. So atmosphere, síocháinte. Now you probably know the word síocháinte for peaceful, which is great. If you're thinking, Michal, I want something different, I want something H1-ish, go for the word shave. It's smaller, but it's nicer. H1s don't have to be like complicated, long, rubbishy sentences. Like, it just has to be different and unique. Shave, but you know the word shave, because what are we obsessed about in Irish? If we're not throwing our ruse on something, we're throwing a shavu on something. So you technically know that nice bit of vocab there. You know so much more Irish than you're giving yourselves credit for. And suimneach is a lovely word as well. Suimneach means calm, peaceful. Now, if you want to go for the whole hog, you can use all 3 of these. You can go for síocháinte, shave, suimneach to hammer it all home. Or you can just use 1 or 2 or 3. It's totally up to you, whichever you want. Quick questions coming in. So Emma, how are you getting on? Emma, are you well? Too. What would I recommend to focus on most for these questions? Like, what types of questions do you think come up most? Emma, will you do me a favour? Lock in images. You cannot answer anything without going back to the images. If I give you a big question 1 and give you a quote, you can only see that in the images. There's contrast in the poem, you can only see contrast in the images. If I say there's love in the poem, you can only see love in the poem in the images. If I say there is sadness in the poem, you can only see sadness in the images. And again, even if I bring it back to question 2, technique, what was the emotion awoken in you? The emotion awoken in me was sadness. Bring me back to an image of sadness in the poem. Images, Emma, are going to do the heavy lifting for you. Lock those in with your poems for your mocks first, and then go and get your life and work of the poet. Once you have your images, you'll be able to answer your questions. I'm a big believer of using imagery in question 1 and question 2. Why? Because it's what the marking scheme tells you to use. Sarah, does Niart take the Tishel Ginnadach? Sarah, that's a very fancy question. It does indeed. Niart does take the Tishel Ginnadach because Niart means a lot of. And as we talked about a little bit earlier as well, when we were using the word of, we were talking about clodagh. When we use the word of in Irish, we have to use our Tishel Ginnadach. Yeah, 100% it does. Would you think colours would be part of 1 or 2? Lydia, this is a super question. So Lydia's asking me, Mihal, do I think colours and sounds would be part of 1 question or part of 2 questions? Well, they would put the 2 of them, Lydia, in a question 1 because it's a 15 marker. You get plenty of scope to get the 15 marks there. I could not see them putting colours and sounds as a question 2 because Lydia, you know that's only worth 6 marks to you. So I could see them pick a colour and tell me about it, or pick a sound and tell me about it, because question 2 only asks for 1 point of information. So I could either see pick your colour or pick your sound in this. Now, coming to Lydia's question, right? We don't need to learn off different sample answers for these because we've already done this in the imagery. So for the past 2 weeks, we've been looking at verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, and verse 4. And as we were saying to Emma, if you lock in your imagery, you'll be able to answer these questions. The sounds, I'm going to say Luan an Filia, the poet mentions. And number 1, Toran na Spadja, the sound of the spade. That's in verse 1. We also hear another sound, and it's Cleave a Chav in verse number 2. The man throws the seaweed, the basket of seaweed, off his back. So we hear the sound of the basket hitting the floor. That's it there. Number 3, we've got a third sound in our poem. The third sound, that's the sound number 3. It's actually in verse 4. So the third sound that we can hear in this is Namadi Rawa, the oars. Ekchak, so remember the oars? Ekchak the Thiar, coming ashore, coming to land. So when the fishermen are coming home, we hear the oars, kind of that gentle lapping on the sea. So Lydia, if they did ask us for the sounds, we'd give them all 3 here. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. The sound of the spade, the sound of the basket, and the sound of the oars in verse number 4. Or Lydia, they might give us a question too and say, pick a sound that you can hear in the poem. And then Lydia, you could pick either 1, 2, or 3. It's up to you. But you don't need to go back and learn off more material. You've already got them in your notes, in your images. Lydia, now they might ask you about colours again, and they might say, well, what about Nadahana, the colours that are in the poem? Well, I could say something like the poet mentions, or I love this phrase here, Janan an tEarrach there. I never see this from students. Use it. Janan an tEarrach there means the poet makes reference to. Very fancy, very, very fancy. The poet makes reference to, and in terms of colours, we have 3 as well. Number 1, on Aman Yarig, the red seaweed. On Aman Yarig, the red seaweed, and that's in verse number 2. When he throws the basket of seaweed off his back because it's heavy and it's full of water, and he throws it on the ground, and we hear that sound of the basket hitting the ground, and then we see this contrast of on Aman Yarig, the red seaweed glistening in the sun. Colour number 2, so obviously, that's Jarig, that's our colour there. Colour number 2 is Darling Wan. Darling is a stony beach. Now, it will come as no surprise, as an island, we've got loads of terms for beaches, right? Darling Wan, a stony beach. So a white stony beach, there's our colour there. And the white stony beach, again, is in verse number 2. And finally, the third colour that we can see is on Arga Ord, the golden sea, on Arga Or, And this comes up in verse 4 when the fishermen are coming home with the fish and they're kind of tired and they're slow and it's the end of the day and the sea has this golden colour at kind of when the sun is going down. So they're your three colours and they are your three sounds as well. It'll either come up as question 1 where they'll ask you for all of them because it's a 15 marker, or if it comes up as question 2, as Lydia was asking, they might just say pick a colour and tell me about it, or pick a sound and tell me about it. But do not go learning off the material because it's just your verse 1, your verse 2, your verse 3 and verse 4. NB, sorry folks, NB is nota bene. It means really important. Make a note. So I always use NB, I think you can use it like an asterisk if you want as well, but anytime you see NB, pay attention to it because it means nota bene. It's Latin. Luke, what does shave mean? Luke, shave means calm. It's identical to shiakanta, peaceful, calm, tranquil. All of those, Luke, mean the exact same thing, identical. And Emma, if you answer one question using images and you have another question that relates to what you just said in your last question, can you write the same or do you need to switch it up? Brilliant question from Emma, folks. Let's have a quick look at this, right? This is why I love the live classes. So Emma is asking, we have used material in question 1 and question 2, right? Question 1 and question 2. So I've used my material here. Am I allowed to use my material here? Yes, you are, because they're marked individually, they're marked separately. The only thing, Emma, I would not do is I would not take a mad chunk of information of like 6-7 lines from question 1 and just throw down the 6 or 7 lines into question 2. There you'd probably have to switch it up a little bit. It just looks an awful lot better. There's no penalties that can be put into place. Technically you could get away with it, but it just doesn't create a good image. But they are marked individually, they're marked completely different. Cleave is the word for a basket. So cleave is the word for a basket, and modger, le, means regarding or concerning. Now all of this, folks, is all translated for you and all done in all the videos that we have, and I'll show you this in a couple of seconds, right? But everything to do with your poems and stories is all translated on the platform itself. So everything that's in your notes. So I want us to go on very quickly, and I want us to actually just go and have a look at the repetition. All right. Actually, do you know what? No, let's go for the emotion, because this was actually the question that came up in 2019. So we'll actually bring this into the question 19 question, right? So let's have a look at here, the emotion of the poem. What is the biggest emotion that awoke in you when you read the poem? And I've got lovely, lovely phrases that you can use for any poem on the course. So I can go for that word again, nyart. So nyart muhulkan, lots of emotions, plenty of emotions. So there are plenty of emotions in the poem. Imask na muhulkan. This is a good phrase to have. Among the emotions, no bother, Karina, anytime. Imask na muhulkan, among the emotions. Sheelim fein. I think myself. Sheelim fein. And we have gra'atje. We came across this. Gra'atje is my word for kind of love of place. Kua, it's a deadly word to have. Kua means nostalgia. Mortis. Mortis, what word can you see in mortis? You can see the word more, can't you? M-O fada or, which means big. If I said to you in English, you're very big in yourself, it kind of means like you're very proud, you're very kind of cocky, you're kind of confident. So mortis is another word for kind of pride, self-respect. So we can go for gra'atje, love for native place. We can go for kua, nostalgia, melancholy. We can go for mortis, kind of pride, and suivness, we can go for calmness. So in these, I'm going to say, I myself think that kua, nostalgia, is huntossi. Huntossi means to the fore, prominent, or very obvious. It's a brilliant phrase to have. I love it. Ta she huntossi. So I think that nostalgia is huntossi, to the fore. Muas le, soaked with, saturated with. Muas is like to be saturated, and le meaning with. So tá an dan, the poem is muas le, it's saturated with gra acha, love for place, love for your native place. But you can use that for any poem in your course. Just take out the word gra acha. The poem is saturated with contrast. Tá an dan muas le coddersnacht. The poem is saturated with calmness. Tá an dan muas le suaimhneas. So that's a nice phrase to have. Now, rinne an fila cursius éfachtach do me a favour. Let's lock this phrase in. Rinne an fila cursius means the poet described. I'm going to pop in the word éfachtach, and it means the poet made an effective description. Cursius is a description, and éfachtach is my adjective. It means effective. So the poet made an effective description of. Lock that phrase in for all of your poetry. And I'm going to go for gra acha, love for place. I'll add in a little darlium, a little cheeky according to me. Darlium, according to me, in my opinion. Now remember, in Irish, we're very like English in certain ways. There's 3 ways that Irish and English are kind of a little bit different, and one of these is here. In Irish, we put the noun first. So I'm going to go for a noun, is cursius. And éfachtach is my adjective. So an effective description. Similar to French, similar to Spanish, but the noun first and then the adjective after that. Now, sílim gúil an gra acha, or sílim gúil gra acha, or hús cainiachta. Do you see the phrase I gave you up here, chun tusaí? It means paving the way, leading the way forward, prominent, most obvious. Any of those translations will be perfect. I've got another lovely one that we can use down here as well. Sílim, I think, gúil gra acha, that love for place is, gúil gra acha, that love for place is hús cainiachta. Hús cainiachta, again, means leading the way, paving the way forward. Both of those here are the same. Use them interchangeably. Contrast is contosigh. Brón is contosigh. Sadness is contosigh. Happiness is contosigh. It just means to be paving the way, leading the way forward. Buan no díran úsáid as. Buan no díran úsáid as. O díran makes use of. Will you do me a favour? Will you translate it that way for me? Because buan úsáid as means to make use of, to get use of. So I can say, O díran gets use of, O díran makes use of. Íomhána cuachtacha. Íomhána cuachtacha means powerful images. Cuachtach is powerful. Íomhána, images. Put your noun first, and then put your adjective into second position. So noun first, and the adjective goes second. Very French, très français. Very Spanish, muy bien. So correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't every poet have to make or get use of powerful images? So there's an awful lot of this that we can fit into any poem. So do me a favour. It's not that I'm giving you homework to do, but when the class is finished, why not spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes pulling out phrases that'll work for all of your poetry and creating a small little bank. Now don't go wild, because you won't get to use them all and you shouldn't be using them all, but pull out maybe 10 phrases that you can use for every poem. So the poet gets use of powerful images. Chun something a chur chun an bhaile ordain. Now a chur chun an bhaile ordain means to hammer home to us. It's a great phrase to have. A chur chun an bhaile, to hammer home something to us. Now what does the poet use to hammer home to us? The poet uses powerful images to hammer home an emotion. And that's what I have here. Muhakan. Now, it's unfortunate that it's on 2 separate pages, which makes it a little bit difficult. So let's go for this part here, right? In yellow, bunan o díran úsáid as. O díran makes use of. Grant. In blue, íomhána cuachtacha. powerful images. And here's my word chun, in order to. Now, when I take that, chun an muchachan, a chur chun an walya arden, that next phrase, it means in order to hammer home the emotion. In order to hammer home the emotion. And again, that phrase can be used for all your poetry. So I don't need to go back and learn something else. I don't need to go back and learn off different answers and different materials and have to go off and learn different jargon and different vocab, because what the examiner wants, and what we talked about in tonight's class, the examiner wants evidence. Concrete, real evidence that I can see and I can visualize from the poem. And that's what you have here. So let's have a look at this. So chéad versa, in the first verse, Janan sé Crsíos air, he describes, and again you'll need that for all of your poetry, make sure you lock that in. So Janan sé Crsíos air, he describes ard, he describes a man, atá, who is, and we have the word amui. Amui means outside. So amui, outside, inagari. Ina means in his, inagari, in his garden. Now, plot twist. You told me all last week. Mihal, gargin, garden. And it's great. Gargin is a great word to have. Love it. Fantastic. We can also use the word gardi. G-A-R-R-A-I fada. They're both the same. So amui in a gardi means out in his garden. Same structure as English. Or, if you're feeling fancy, in a gort means in his field. Quick question into the comment section. What word do we all have for field in Irish? Beginning with the letter P. It's not a trick question. Let me know in the chat. And don't be worried about fadas, H's, or O's, or I's. It's Tuesday night. Life's too short. First thing that comes to you for park. Field in Irish. Into the chat function there. It's been a long day. Right. In a gort, in his field. Ag cur glossary. Ag cur has two meanings for you in your language. Cur meaning put, like ag cur means putting. Brilliant, right? Ag cur also has another meaning. Ag cur means sowing. So ag cur glossary, sowing vegetables. Now I asked you this actually 2 weeks ago. Glossary is the word for vegetables in Irish. What colour can you see in the word vegetables? We can see the word gloss, which is green. So has anyone ever shouted to you, eat your greens, means eat your vegetables? Comes from your Irish. So a cur glossary, sowing vegetables. The heis aigen means of some type, of some kind. The heis aigen. Deadly folks, Park, Kate, Lydia, C.A., Clodagh, Rachel, Karina, and Siobhan are us. Inta, my shiv folks. Always throw the stuff into the comments, into the chat function, because there's always a sense of pride when you get something right. Like, yeah, and even if you don't know it, you can just look and see what everyone's putting in and just copy and paste it, and I'll think you're great. Now, a nuas shin, well done folks, a nuas shin, on top of that, and again, a nuas shin contains the word huas or suis, which you know means up. So a nuas shin means kind of like up on that, or on top of that, or along with that. Curdan sheishias air. Here's another way to say he describes. So I've been correcting for a long time, long time. And this phrase here is one of the most common phrases that students will use. Janan she Crsíos air, he describes. And it's great. If you're looking for something different, you can go for this one. It means the exact same thing. Curdan she Sheis air. He describes. There's no difference. So Curdan she Sheis air in the he describes the sound, or more specifically, aspa fuma. Aspa means a lack of. Aspa fuma, a lack of sound. Ata, which is, and then le clustal. Oh, listen to how this is translated. Le clustal means to be heard. So le clustal, to be heard. The opposite of this is le fekal, which means to be seen. So it's your verbal noun in Irish. Now, one of the things that you told me as well last week is you know the words like ag squealch and a gluck and ta and greenig soil shoot, ta and greenig tatniv, and they were deadly. They were fantastic phrases. I'm going to give you another one here. So being on green, the sun does be ag dorchu and nuas. Dorchu is pouring. So ag dorchu pouring, ag dorchu and nuas pouring kind of down on the man. So ag dorchu and nuas an ar. Is féidirling áitih go raibh tairse an ar. Let's go for the infinitive. Áitih means to argue, to claim. And the first part is féidirling. We are able. Bring the two of them together. It's my infinitive. Is féidirling, we are able, áitih, to claim, go raibh tairse an ar. That the man was tired. Tairse. Now, I'm going to get you to do one thing. Actually, no, we'll leave it. If you want, you can stop that sentence there. You'd be like, Michal, deadly phrase, love it, I'm out, thanks a million. Or if you want to feel that you think I can go a little bit more. So, a bheith gobar mar sin, working like that. A bheith gobar mar sin, working like that. San amsir brochalach. Now, brochalach means hot weather, but really hot. Have you ever gone to Spain where they just put the letter O and the letter A at the end of all their words? And the weather's super hot, maybe around like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. And you kind of get that in Ireland here as well, where that kind of midday sun is really, really, really hot. We call that brochalach for kind of like really hot weather. So I'm sure brochalach in the very hot weather, in the very kind of really hot weather. So I'm sure brochalach in the hot weather, but it means really, really hot. Like, so you can keep adding on a little bit more if you want. Now, on áite eáil, have a look at this. Can you underline this for me? On áite eáil is another example of your infinitive, right? A eáil means to see. That's the infinitive. So on áit, a eáil means to see the place. Now, go back and get the first part again. Is féidirling. We are able. So as féidirling, we are able on áite eáil to see the place, and you can stop there, or you can add on a little bit more. On áit a chlustal, it's another infinitive, right? On áit a chlustal. Now a chlustal means to hear. That's the infinitive, to hear. So on áit a chlustal, to hear the place. And it comes back to Lydia's question again. Lydia was asking us there about like kind of about what we hear and what we see, and whether it's going to come up in question 1 or question 2. This poem is all about working conditions and colours that we see and sounds that we hear. This poem is all about kind of the memories of the island and about what we see and about what we hear. They're so limited in what they can ask you in terms of poetry at higher level leaving cert, because these are ordinary level poems that we get to study as higher level students. So we're able to see the place and to hear the place. That's true. Gan ein stro, I like this phrase. Gan meaning without, ein, any, stro, difficulty. Gan ein stro, without any difficulty. And the last, I'm going to skip this, right? Ní léon rud a chuireadh bacard, and it means nothing would hamper us. Nothing would hamper us. But I want to get onto this phrase. I'm just kind of conscious of time here, right? That one with the line underneath it. Nothing would hamper us. Nothing would impede us. Nothing would stop us from understanding. That's all it is, right? But you see this one here. Cruhín ó Díran. Ó Díran creates. Can you just do me a favour? There's an autocorrect that I have because I have my computer in German and French and Irish for the crack, but poor computer doesn't know if it's coming or going most times. Like, but Cruhín ó Díran creates. Can you put that C or UTH? So he creates picture suivneach, a peaceful picture, a peaceful image. He creates a peaceful image. Críochnaíonn sé gach versa. He finishes, or he ends, críochnaíonn sé gach versa, every verse, leis an abairt, with the sentence san tEarrach here. And that's really, really important. They haven't asked us about repetition in the poem in a while, so that's something that I would look out for. repetition in an tEarrach here and the importance of the repetition. So we want to put in this tReisín sé. Do me a favor, underline the word tReisín. TReisín means reinforces or strengthens. And every poet is going to have to reinforce something or strengthen something. It's another waffly bit of poetry vocab, and we love that. So tReisín sé, he reinforces, he strengthens. Táhacht na héite, the importance of place. Or sorry, it reinforces the importance of place. Táhacht na héite. Donilja for the poet. Now, I have a couple of questions that I wanted to get onto very, very quickly. So let's have a quick look at this, right? This is our final week with an tEarrach here. We've spent 3 weeks on this. All the material that you need for an tEarrach here has already been done. So if you go down to, just in case you've got maybe an tEarrach here, I'm coming up for Christmas tests, which a couple of you were telling me. All your poems and all your stories are here anyway, right? So we have an tEarrach here. Here we go. Everything that you have in your books has already been translated. So we've got the theme, you've got verse 1, verse 2, verse 3, verse 4. You have an tEarrach here the atmosphere, an tEarrach here the colours and the symbols, the repetition, the metre and the life of the work of the poet. Everything has already been translated for you. What we want to do in the grinds though is we want to take 3 weeks, look at an exam question each week and how to answer that question, and then do a little bit of revision. But if you're studying for your exams, make sure that you use the videos to translate the material as well. Kate, no, unfortunately not. I don't think so. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't come up, depending on kind of the time of the year. But no, unfortunately not. Most of the stuff is kind of, it's locked like that. Like, it just depends on what type of kind of subscription that you have. Like, but couple of questions there that I wanted to very quickly. Yeah, another question, what would I focus on for my poetry? Images. Images are super, super, super important. Next week we're going on to Dish. We're going to spend 3 weeks on Dish because Dish is kind of patterned to make an appearance. 3 weeks on Dish, an exam question each of the weeks, and again revising some of the material and the key material that you have. But again, Dish is all done for you there as well. Everything. There it is, everything that you need there. So when it comes to learning stories, if you've got a story for your Christmas test, lock in a summary. Summary is key. A summary goes through all of the material. So if I ask you about the woman being horrible in Dish, again, you can just go through the summary from start to finish. If I say that the man is lazy, it all comes from your summaries as well. But we do the same thing. We want to kind of make sure that our material contains the buzzwords and the jargon from the questions themselves. Do I think this poem will come up? I have this on kind of TikTok. I put up folks, I'm so bad at TikTok. I know you're tagging me and stuff like that, and I'm only seeing it like a couple of days later, but I'm trying so hard with this. But I do have it on this, right? So Mugrasa gave an tEarrach here at a 3 kind of ones, Karina, that I think are kind of patterned to make an appearance, patterned to show up. So yeah, Mugrasa, Gavin and tEarrach here, they would be my 3. Now we've done Gavin and we've done tEarrach here, and on Christmas then we'll be back to Mugrasa, and that'll be you done for your mocks in the end of January, start of February. So yeah, folks, look, huge amount of work done again. Amazing, absolutely super proud of every single one of you. Keep up the good work. I know you're getting tired. I was talking to you, Ahmed, how are you getting on? Jimmer the tattoo, Ahmed, you well? It's good to see you on Sunday as well, right up the front as always. I'm getting to know an awful lot of you as well, so I love the live classes that we have in the Talbot and around the country as well, because I can actually get to know kind of I get to know a good bit of I get to see you and recognise you, it's nice to put faces and names and all that. The thing is, when it comes to the mocks, folks, and again, Lydia's a question, what should we do to study if the mocks? Bit stressed. Lydia, 100%, totally get it. This time of the year, you're going to be a little bit more kind of tired. The evenings are darker, it's a little bit more stressful. You probably feel like it's a little bit more, the material's getting more, lots of learning off by heart, and it's kind of annoying. The thing is, Lydia, to pick off what are the biggest things that you can get done that are the most amount of marks for you. For example, and we talked about this in the masterclass on Sunday, your poems and stories, Lydia, are only worth 30 marks. The conversation for 8 minutes in the orals is worth 120 marks. Even the Srapik doors, Lydia, are worth 80 marks, and they're done in 3 to 4 minutes. So you all have to be very, very careful about the time and energy that you're putting into something for me at the moment in terms of mocks. Why are we stressing about a 30-mark question, which we know is broken down into 15 marks, 6 marks, and 9-mark questions, when the orals are worth 120? Why are we worrying about poems and stories when the Srat Pictures are nearly worth 3 times as much as a poem or a story? So Lydia, here's what I would do. Acknowledge that you're stressed. It's totally fair, totally valid, especially this time of the year. And then I would go and I would have a look and say, right, I need to get something done. I'm going to chase my biggest marks. I'm going to chase the biggest material. I'm not going to spend all my time and effort in stories, poems, because they're only worth 30 marks. They're important. But literally your orals are more important there. 120 marks for an 8-minute conversation. Brilliant. Even the essays, Lydia, 16.6% for an essay. 100 marks. Again, 3 times worth a poem or a story. So put things into perspective. You can't do it all. Organize your time and energy in terms of percentages. Make sure that what you put in, you're going to get marks back from. There's no point in wasting time and energy on something that's very, very small. Right, folks, I tell you what, Emma, I see you have a question there. Is it bad that we haven't started any SRA? No, Emma, your stuff is all there. Your SRA are all there. And Emma, again, on TikTok, I'm such a fraud. On TikTok, I've got all the different types of SRAT that are all very, very similar and unique, Emma. So have a look at those ones that I've picked out. Don't worry, don't panic, don't stress. I'm sure your teacher has a plan and all that. But your material there for the SRAT are there, and the ones that I've picked out, I think, are the ones that are nice and uniformed and patterned, to do with school, sports, and hobbies and music. I grouped all of them together as well, just so you can use the same material in all of the different SRAT pictures as well. Definitely not. Don't worry. Don't panic. It's only November, folks. Right, I'll tell you what. Great questions coming in. Will you do me a favour? Come back to me tomorrow, because tomorrow we have the Q&A session, 5:15, an hour and 15 minutes to have a chat. So if you're worried, stressed, you don't know what to do, where to go, stressed with mocks, come back to me tomorrow at 5:15 and we'll have a chat. Live, interactive class. I love it. It's my favourite class of the week, Emma. So Emma, Lydia, anyone out there, just pop back to me 5:15. We'll have a chat with you, and I'll walk you through what you need to do a little bit more better. All right. Listen, folks, thank you so much. Go to mila moiga. Vi siv special moi. Vi siv an. Vi siv inta her fad. These are deadly. Thanks for a great class again, and can't wait to see you all tomorrow 5:15. You better be there. Go mila moiga. Harja. Slán ish.